That's it. Sorry, can you guys hear any background noise? Like,
No,
okay, okay, that's better.
you're sounding good. Yeah.
Okay, so now, according to our syllabus, or according to the timetable, today we'll be treating the basics of Flutter, that is, the introduction, the architecture, and also how to get started with Flutter, that is, building your first Flutter project. Yeah, so that's what we'll be doing today. Yeah, so let me just share my screen real quick so we can see what I'm doing. Yeah, okay. Okay, I believe you can all see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so actually during our first section, that is the very first class we had, we actually did the introduction to Flutter and that and everything and the setup also. But for this section also, you still be doing like reintroduction, but this one just be like a brief explanation. Okay, so before I actually move on, Michael and David, have you guys actually done any research on Flutter before? That is, have you studied Flutter before?
Not really.
Not really. If I may ask, what do you know about Flutter itself? Michael.
Okay, for me, I made a research on it before I joined the class, like, because I'm considering
Okay.
uh, Power Platform and Flutter, so the one I'm going to join. So after making the research, I find out that Flutter is used for creating, like, I can use it to create apps for either Android or iOS
Yeah.
during that time, yeah. So that's why I choose Flutter
Okay.
over
Okay.
other package.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so now let me just move on to the introduction aspect. So Flutter, as you can see here, Flutter is a Google mobile SDK. So this simply means that Flutter is built by Google and is used to build native Android applications. So now in the and I said Android, mobile rather, so mobile application. So in the mobile world now, we have different OS. We have the Android, we have iOS. We still have some other Windows OS that are not that popular. Example is BlackBerry, although BlackBerry is somehow conjoining with Android in a way, but we have BlackBerry, we have Fuchsia, that's like a Google OS also. We have Windows phone and so on, but the most common one are iOS and Android. So with Flutter, you can build a native application for these two platforms. That's for mobile aspect. With Flutter also, you can build for web. That is, you can build a website with Flutter. You know, for websites now, website development is different from mobile application. Yeah, but with Flutter, you can build for web also. With all this stuff, you are just using one single code base. That is, you are doing your coding once and you get the result in all these platforms. So now after the web, we still have desktop. So desktop application in the sense that we have our Windows, we have our Linux, and we have our macOS. If you're on MacBook, you can develop a desktop application for macOS. If you're on Linux, you can develop a desktop application for Linux, and if you're on Windows, you can develop a desktop application for Windows. So with all this in mind, Flutter can we can use Flutter to build an application for this platform with one single code base. That is, you do your coding once and you get results in all these platforms that you might want to run it on. Yeah. So when building the application with Flutter, everything towards widget. So in Flutter you will be getting widget like almost every time because all your app is like a bunch of widgets. Everything is wrapped around widgets. So what is widgets itself? So widgets are like classes. You know, during our task class, we talk about classes. So inside our class, we have a class can ask constructor can ask different functionalities inside of it. So widget is like inbuilt Flutter classes. That is, it contains all the all the all the widgets, let me just use the word widget again, all the widgets that we might need inside our Flutter application. For example, now if you want to write something on the application, that is, you want to write a text, we have a text widget. If you want to show an image on your application, we have image widget. If you want to design like a container, a box or so, we have container, we have size box, we have column, we have row, we have a lot of widgets like that, like thousands of them that you can use throughout your application. So that's one big thing about Flutter, that is everything is inbuilt. You don't need to call any third-party library for you to gain access to the task. That's one of the advantages of Flutter over React Native. Yeah. So now, moving on, the process of composing widgets together is called composition. The user interface of the app is composed of many single widgets, each of them handling one particular job. That is the reason why Flutter developer tends to think of their Flutter app as a tree of widgets. So if you have actually worked with any Flutter guy before, we hear them saying everything in Flutter is a widget. That is, everything in your Flutter application. If you check one Flutter application now, you can see everything in this app now is just like a tree of widgets. Yeah. So now, in Flutter, we have two main types. Although we have two main types actually, the one that will be used to track your Flutter career, but although we still have some other ones that are for advanced levels, but the two main ones are the stateless widget and stateful widget. Yeah, so this stateless widgets and stateful widgets, although we are having the class fully on Wednesday, but I'll just briefly explain it. So stateless widget is just like is a class that we have to extend. We get to that once we start the coding. Yeah, so it's a widget that has all the components that Flutter has put inside of it. So for this stateless widget now, anything on that screen cannot change. That is, everything is just static. It's just like you displaying a text, like this is OUI Bootcamp or something. That text is not changing. It's not changing throughout your entire app lifecycle. So that's what this stateless widget is for. That is, everything on that particular screen cannot change. There's nothing dynamic on this particular screen. So that's where we can use this stateless widget. Yeah, you will see the example once we start with the coding aspect. Yeah, and for stateful widget is the opposite of stateless widget. In the sense that with stateful widgets, everything on that page can change. That is, you can change one color to another on the same page. For example, now on a screen now, I have a background color of orange. So on click on a button, I have a button on that same screen. So on click on that button, I want to change the color of my background color from orange to probably pink. With the help of tasteful widgets, you can do that, because this tasteful widgets now has some functionality. For example, we have init state, we have set state inside of the tasteful widget that you can use to rebuild the whole widget tree. So that's the difference between the stateless widget and stateful widget. Yeah, I hope we understand what these two guys are for now. Yeah, I can't see you guys.
Yes. Yeah, we are fine
Okay.
with you.
Okay, so moving on now. Let me just skip this. So now moving on, we have what's it called, like Flutter, and like an alternative for Flutter, which is React Native. So what is the difference between Flutter and React Native? So Flutter was released 2017, while React Native 2015. The program language for Flutter is that was what we have been treating so far for the past 2 weeks now. While the program language for React Native is React.js. Flutter control every pixel on the screen. React Native control via the native mobile component. I don't know what that means. So Flutter is used for cross-platform, that is mobile, Android and iOS, web, desktop, what's it called, Linux, macOS, and Windows. Yeah, so the same thing for React Native, mobile and React Native for web. You can't use React Native to build for desktop, although there's one JavaScript framework that you can also use to build for desktop. I think that's Electron or something. Yeah. So Flutter was developed by Google and React Native was developed by Facebook. The current version of Flutter is 0.05, while the current version of React Native is 0.6. So all this comparison is just trying to tell us, to show us like the difference between these two platforms. You can say, okay, this one actually has more um more stuff than the other one. So that's what the comparison is all about. So with Flutter, we have a larger community in Flutter because if you are active on Twitter now, on LinkedIn, you see a lot of Flutter dev, especially if you check their username, you see this blue love icons. That's like the Flutter, what do you call it, like the Flutter tag. If you once you see a profile on Twitter and see that love blue color, that means the guy or the girl is a Flutter developer. So yeah. So now that's that about the Flutter versus React Native. So moving on now, this particular code snippet, this is a Flutter or that code snippet. Although there's not like a difference between that and Flutter, it's still the same thing. But Flutter is just used to build the UI. That is, you use Flutter to build the user design, the user interface. That is what the user sees. Why that is where you brings in the logic. That is all the logics of the application. That is, once a button is pressed, the function that you are putting beneath it and all the stuff. That's what React that is responsible for. Yeah, so this is a code snippet for Flutter or Jet. So the very first thing you can see here is we have this import, which is import package Flutter slash material dot dat. So importing important package required to connect Flutter and that. So this import simply means that we want to gain access to all the function inside this particular main.dat file. So where do we actually get access to the main.dat file? If you check the folder you downloaded during your Flutter setup, you will see this main.dat file inside of it. If you just check through every of those folder, you see this main.dat file. So all those file that you have already downloaded, we have some Flutter code inside of it. Yeah. So we are just importing one of the file. So this particular main.dat file now contain literally most of the widgets we'll be using on this screen and some other screen. So you just import our material.dat file. So once we import it, we all know that this is the starting point of any dat application. This is void main. So for you to run any dat code, you must have this main function here. So this main function is the entering point. That's what the compiler sees before it can run any dat code. Yeah. So after our void main now, so inside the void main we have this run app. So this run app simply tells us, when we are still doing the dat class, we only have this void main, and inside of the void main we are just doing some practice like the variables, the functions, and so on and so forth. But since we want to run an app, for that we are just getting our results from the console. But now you want to show up an app on a device, probably on your mobile phone, or you want to run it on web, or you want to run it on desktop, and so on. Yeah, so that's why we have this run app. So this run app function is to attach the given widgets to the screen. That is, once that sees this particular function, which is main function, once it sees it, okay, it's now this is the block for this main function. So inside of this we have our run app. So this run app, as I said earlier, is the function that is responsible to attach the given widget to the screen. So once the app is launched, probably once we launch the app, or we are running the app now, once the stuff finish loading, the screen that will pop up once the app launches is this widget that we are returning inside the run app function. So this run app function also is a Flutter function. That is, it comes with this main.dat function, main.dat file. So if you don't have this main.dat imported, you won't have access to this run app. So that's it. So now inside the run app now, you must return a widget that you want to show up once the app is launched. Yeah, so that this is the widget that you are showing. This is my app class. You can see they already have a my app class created underneath this guy. We can that's why they were able to call it this my app function or widget rather. Yeah. So that's so if you want to run any of this function is necessary, they are compulsory, so you must just have it like this. Yeah, so moving on now, for the my app class that we return inside of this run app now, how does it work? So earlier I was mentioning the difference between stateless and stateful. You can see now that they extend stateless widgets here. That is, for this particular screen, we just want it to run once. We are not performing anything dynamic here. We just want to show up something, and that will be the end for that particular screen. Yeah, so that's why they are using stateless widgets here. So now in every Flutter screen that you'll be building, you must extend either stateless or stateful widgets, because they are the one that can build your material screen for you. Because with the help of when we are studying class, we I can't remember fully, but we study extend. That is, we can extend another class. If you create a class now and create probably just create three class, and inside our class A now you have different function inside of it. Inside our class 2 you have different function inside of it, and inside class 3 now, inside the class 3 we now extend class 1. We extending that class 1, it give access to class 3. That is, every function inside class 1 now, we now have this so
I can't hear you well. I think your headphone or your earpiece.
Mr. Samuel, we can't hear you actually. Mr. Samuel,
yeah, can you hear me?
no, the line is actually breaking, not like a background noise. I don't know if you can rejoin the call. Probably it will make a difference. It's still the same thing.
Like the noise is much, so you can't hear me.
The noise is too much. It's still the same thing.
Oh, coming. Just give me a minute.
It's okay now.
It's okay now.
Yes.
Uh-uh. I did not do anything. Okay. Can you hear me very well now?
Yeah, we can hear you very well, loud and clear.
Okay. So let me share my screen again. Okay. I believe you can all see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so where did I stop the other time?
You were explaining stateful and stateful widgets, stateless and stateful widgets, rather.
Okay. I'm on this particular code snippet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so as I was saying, this stateful widget or stateless, we know earlier I was explaining stateless and stateful widget. That is, we have one that can change and the other one that cannot change. That is, anything on that particular screen cannot change. And the other one, which is stateful widget, is the one that has dynamic functionality. That is, anything we have on that screen, we can actually change it dynamically. Yeah. So now the reason why this stateless widget was extended is because on this particular screen now there's nothing dynamic here. They just want to return a particular text to launch the app, and that is all for this particular class. That's why they extend stateless widget here. Yeah, so this is just like you creating your normal class. So then they create my app class here, then they, I believe you guys heard when I was explaining extend, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So so the this my app class now extends stateless widget. So inside the stateless widget now we have all this functionality. That is where we have this keyword now, and this super. We have access to it inside our stateless widget, and also this widget build. That's, we have access to it inside the stateless widget. So now inside the widgets build, this our build widget. You can see now that this build is a function. These are build widget function rather. So this build is a function. If you see, you know, when we are studying function in that, we have return type and also the function name, then the parameter, then the block of code. So the return type of this particular build function is widget. You can see that you have the widget, then the function name, which is build, then inside of the build, the parameter for it is this build context. We get to know what build context is later on. So this is the parameter. So this build context basically is like a is like a key for this particular screen. Is the one that holds this entire class till we actually move past it. That is for the entire lifetime of this particular class. So once you want to probably want to navigate to another screen, now you must pass this context to the second screen. That is our screen one now has our context, screen two also has its own context. If you want to move from screen one to screen two now, you must first of all close this context one before you move to the screen two. So that's what this context is all about. You get to know more about it once we start decoding. I believe you guys can still hear me.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so inside the our build function now, this is the build function. You know, when we are doing function in that, you know, anytime you have the return type, you must return that particular type. That is probably our this build functional is, let's say, string. You must return a string value. But for this guy that is widget return type, then we are returning a widget. So this widget that we have here, which is material app, is a widget that contains all the material design that you might have, that you can have on your application. So all this material design now, you have access to them inside your material app. So this material app, you have the title, you have the theme, you have your home, and a lot of other stuff. So now we return the material app. So the title that is here now, if you minimize an app on your phone now, if you're on Android, if you minimize the app, you see that the phone will have one description on top of it. If you put the app on minimize, you see the description on top of it. That the parameter or the argument responsible for that is title in Flutter. So you have to first of all call your material app. So once you call your material app, then inside of it you have the title. So if you want to give your application a title, then you can just put your title here. So you can put any name here, that is the name of the application. Yeah, so after that now we have theme. So this theme is like the theme of your applications. For example now, for your entire application, you want to set the color for all the buttons that you'll be using throughout the entire application lifespan, you want to set it to probably blue or green, you can do that inside of this theme. So we have a lot of theme data inside this guide that you can just try out. And also if you want to set it the default color, the background color for every screen, the app bar color, the bottom navigation, all the colors, that is all the themes. You want to set, if you want to change the theme of your application also from dark mode to light mode, also you can do that inside of this material app. Yeah, so moving on now, we have home. Although we still have plenty stuff inside this material widget, but the basic one that we need right now is just these three stuff here. So that's why we're just moving past it. So once you start development, you know more about the remaining stuff. Yeah. So now we have this home now. So this home is like the initial route of your application. That is, once the app launches, the first screen that will be launched, that will come up once the app launch, this is the parameter responsible for it. That is, the widget that you are returning in front of it is the screen that will get launched once the application launches. Yeah, so inside the home now, you can see they pass this my home page. So this is another class here. You can see that this is a separate class. This is a separate class which they named my app, and it extends stateless widgets. This is another class here. My own page, it also extends stateless widget, because inside there they are just printing welcome to jig for jig. Yeah, they're not performing anything dynamic. Yeah, so inside our home now, we return, or they return my home page, as this is my home page here, and the pass title to it. We still get to constructor later on. So they pass the widget my home page to this home. That simply means that once the app launches, this is the first screen that you want to show up to the user. You know, if you launch an app now, there will be like a first screen that will show up once the app is opened also. Yeah, so this is just retelling that to do the same once the app launch. Yeah, so we return my home page here now. So inside my home page, it also extends stateless widget, and also we have the build function here. So inside the build function now, we have this scaffold. Yeah, so this scaffold, let me just quickly go back. You know, here we return material app, and inside the return scaffold. So this material app contains like all the material needs for your application. That is, the settings that you might need for the entire lifespan of your application. But this scaffold, you will have to be returning probably in every of your screen. That is, if you want to be, you know, your application can have more than one screen. So probably your application has 5 screens now. So for screen one now, you have to return scaffold, because our scaffold now contains widgets that is needed on that screen. For example, we have the app bar. So our app bar is like the upper part of the application. I will show you an example of it very soon. So we have the app bar. Inside the scaffold, we have bottom navigation. I will show you an example of it later on. We have floating action body, we have drawer, we have a lot of widgets inside of it like that. So this scaffold is the one that will give us access to all these widgets that we need. Yeah, so now inside of the scaffold, we have the app bar. So the app bar, if we check the result here, this app bar here, where they have this home page, this app bar is the one responsible for it. Yeah, so now we have the app bar. So inside the app bar now, you can have your title, you have the action button. Although they didn't write the action button here. The have action button, we have leading, assuming you want to put icons at this side of the screen, and also you want to put icon at this side of the screen, you have every access to that inside of this app bar. So now after the app bar, they now have this body. Yeah, so this body, as the name implies, is just like the body of your application. Once you have the app bar, that takes the upper part, so the remaining blank screen is the body. So inside the body now, you can do anything you want inside it. That is, you can design any design implementation inside of it. Yeah, So now inside the body, the return center, this center now is a widget. Earlier I was telling you that everything in Flutter is a widget. This alba is a widget. This scaffold is a widget. Stateless widget also is a widget. So everything is just widgets inside another widget and so on. So now inside this body, we have this center widget. So this center widget is just to center the child to the center of the body. That is, place this particular um place this particular widget at the center of our body. Yeah, so that's what the center is doing here. So now inside the center is a child, can only accept one child. So now in Flutter we have widgets that can accept multiple child and widget that can only accept single child. Yeah, so now for center it can only accept one widget, and inside the widget they return text, and for the text they return my welcome to jig for jig. Yeah, so now if you can see the output now, this is the half bar, and inside the body, since they place it at the center, we have jig for jig here. That is the content inside the text. That's what we have here. Yeah, I believe you guys understood the explanation for this code snippet. Do you, Michael?
Right? Yeah, yeah. I'm following, but it will become clearer once we start coding.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, so that's that about the code snippet. We create our own Flutter project also today, and also try to run an application. Yeah, so I guess I've actually talked about this during our first course, so I won't go through it again. So let's just move to the architecture now. So move to the architecture now. So now, in our syllabus, if you check the timetable, we have introduction to architecture application. So Flutter asks an architecture, that is the application architecture. For every thing that you might want to be, you must have like a foundation for it. So that's what this architecture is trying to talk to us about. That is how Flutter really works. That is all the components inside of Flutter. How do they really work? Yeah. So that's what Flutter architecture is trying to say. Yeah. So now Flutter architecture application mainly consists of these four topics, which is widget, gestures, concept of state, and layers. Yeah. So for widget, I've been trying to talk about widgets since we started this course. So widgets are primarily components of any Flutter application. It acts as a UI for the user to interact with the application. Any Flutter application is itself a widget that is made up of a combination of widgets. In a standard application, the root defines the structure of the application, followed by a material app widget, which basically holds its internal components in place. This is where the properties of the UI and the application itself is set. The material app has a scaffold widget that consists of visible components, that is widgets, of the application. The scaffold has two primary purposes, namely the body and the app bar. It holds all the child widgets, and this is where all its properties are defined. So this text is just trying to explain what we have inside of this code snippet. That is where we return the my app material app widget, and also inside the material app widget, since our home is pointing to this my home page, and inside the my home page we return this scaffold. So that's what this text is trying to explain. That is, inside our Flutter application, that everything is a widget. That is, we'll be calling one widget to do something, and all kinds of widgets in Flutter. Yeah, so that's it. So we have this tree now. This is the I believe you guys can see it. Yeah, so this is the root, that is the top level, the my app, that we have here. This guy, this is the very first thing, that is the top layer of the application. This is my app. So inside the my app, that's where we return this material app. Yeah, so this material app contains all the, please let me know if you cannot hear me again, because they just took our light. Yeah, so all the main settings of our Flutter application is done inside of this material app. Yeah. So now inside the top level we have our material. Then moving forward we have the my home page, that is the class or the widget that was returned for this home, which is my home page. So inside the my home page now we also extend stateless widgets, and we extend stateless widget, and we have scaffold inside of it. So let me check here. We have scaffold. So inside our scaffold we have the app bar, then the body, the property app bar, the property body. So inside the body now has another property, which is child. The child now out the text, this particular text, which is where we have the welcome to Jig for Jig content inside of it. So they are just trying to explain the structure of this particular screen here. Yeah, so that's what the widget is all about. So inside scaffold there's usually an alpha widget. As I said earlier, inside our scaffold we have a lot of properties inside our scaffold, but the most used ones are alpha, body, bottom navigation, floating action button, and probably drawer. So those four properties now are the most used properties inside our scaffold, and we'll be using them also throughout this course. Yeah. So the scaffold also has a body, that is the body, as the name implies, the whole body of your application, that is the white space. Once you create the upper, which takes the upper part, the body is the remaining blank space. So inside the body now you can do all sorts of design implementation you might want to do on it. Yeah. So this is where the widget property are set. All these widgets combined form forms the home page of the application itself. The center, they are still trying to explain how the result that they have here works. Yeah. So that's what widgets is. So now let me just try to summarize the whole widget of it. So widgets, as I've been saying, is what you'll be using throughout your Flutter application. That is, for you to have a text, that is, you want to display a particular word inside your app, you must use the text widget. We have text, we have center, we have for buttons. If you want to create a button, we have material buttons, we have icon button, and a lot of them. If you want to show up an icon, we have the icon widget, and so on and so forth. We have thousands of widgets like that. You get used to each of these widgets once you start development also. Yeah. So now let's just move to layers. So the Flutter framework is categorized based on its complexity and establishes a hierarchy based on the decreasing level of these complexities. These categories are often called layers. These layers are built on top of one another. The topmost layer is a widget specific to the operating system of the device, that is Android or iOS. The second layer consists of the native Flutter widgets, which comprise structural UI components, gesture detectors, state management components, and so on. So this third layer is where all the UI and state rendering occurs. It is the layer that includes all the visible components of the Flutter application. So we have this diagram that shows the structure. So the very first one that we have here, okay, is platform specific widgets. Now, for Flutter, you can build for different platforms. We have Android, we have iOS. If you have actually used both Android and iOS before, you know that the design structure of Android is quite different from that of iOS. So now in Flutter, we have platform specific widget, that is widget that works or that has the design of each OS. That is on iOS now. If you have used iPhone before, you know that the pop-up on an iPhone structure is different from that of Android. So iPhone or iOS has their own kind of design, while Android also has their own kind of design. So to have access to all this, we have platform specific widget. That is, if you want to use something that really speaks for Android, we have some widgets responsible for that. And if you want to use something specific for iOS, Flutter has some widgets, some widget that is responsible for all those stuff. And we have general widgets. For example, the text widget will work the same way. It will work on Android, iOS, web, desktop, and so on. Yeah, so that's platform. We have widgets, that is the general widget out there, the center widget, the text, and so on. We have the rendering, rendering, animation, and painting gesture. So this animation and painting is just you you know what animation really means now. So this animation is just you having something that animates on your screen, that is something that is changing position, or like a 2D graphic or so on your screen. That's animation. And gesture simply means an interaction between the app and the user. That is, once the user click a button, the user is interacting with the app once the user click on the button. Yeah, so that's the gesture. Yeah, so gesture, we have we have foundation, although this foundation and the engine are quite the same. So the C++ engine. So Flutter is built upon this program language, that is the C and C++. If you have actually worked with C family before, you know that the syntax are quite the same. They are almost the same, although they are not the same. They are quite similar. Even for JavaScript, we have some JavaScript code that also are similar to that of Flutter. If you want to create function in JavaScript, it's still like the same way that you do that inside your that function also, and so on. So Flutter is built upon C or C++ engine. That is, Flutter uses their engine to work here. So sorry, let me just take a water break. Hello, can you guys hear me? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So I hope you are getting all these widget layers of it in. Do you? Are you getting it? David,
Yes, sir.
welcome on
Yes.
the call.
Yeah, we understand it.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Sorry. Before I move on, Rebecca, are you there?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Okay. So are you actually getting what I've been trying to say
Yes,
so
yes,
far?
I'm with you.
Okay. Okay. Cool. What about Ahmed? Ahmed, are you there? Are you here? Okay. I guess I'm not. Okay, 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 nice. Okay, so let's just move on because we still have some stuff to do. Yeah, so for the gestures now, gesture simply means how you interact with your application. That is, if the user click on this button, what will happen? Yeah. So now, as it was written here, all physical form of interaction with a Flutter application is done through predefined gestures. So gesture detectors are used for the same. It is an invisible widget that is used to process physical interaction with the Flutter application. The interaction includes gesture like tapping, dragging, swiping, and so on. This feature can be used to creatively enhance the user experience of the app by making it perform desired action based on simple gestures. So what this gesture simply means is, in Flutter now we have a particular widget called named gesture detectors. So with this gesture detector, you can perform all sorts of gesture. That is, probably you want to have on long press. Once the user press the button, probably for 30 seconds, you want to show something. If the user just tap on it, you want to show something. If the user want to swipe or drag or all sort of gesture stuff, you can do that with this gesture detector. Yeah, so that's what the gesture is trying to say. That is an interaction between the user and the application. Yeah. So moving forward now, we have the last one, which is concept of state. So if you have worked with React.js or JavaScript before, you know that you'll be familiar with the concept of a state. The states are nothing but data objects. Flutter also operates on similar stuff for the management of states in a Flutter application. Stateful widget is used. When I was talking about stateful widget, I was saying that with stateful widget, with the help of stateful widgets now, we can do some dynamic on that particular screen. So, able to manage it for example,
Yes, the noise has started again. I can't hear you anymore.
Sir, your mic want to scatter us.
oh, let me just try and rejoin the call again. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, it's loud and clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why the stuff is just making noise. Let me just try and quit one stuff I have here. Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, hold on. What about now?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay.
Okay, we can see your screen now.
Okay, so now okay, I don't know if you can see okay, so moving forward. So the last one that you have here, which is concept of state. So as I was saying, on stateful widgets now, for stateful widgets, as I said earlier, you can do some dynamic stuff. That is, change, um, you can change a particular the current value of a variable to another new value. That is, you can update anything on that stateful widget. But with this, you have to be able to manage the current position, because you changing something, that means the entire widget tree of that class has changed. So you must be able to know what is happening on that screen. So that's what this state management topic comes in. So similar to the concept of state in React.js, the rendering of widgets specific to the state occurs whenever the state changes. So this also avoid the rendering of the entire application every time the state of a widget change. So with stateful widgets now, if you change something, instead of it repeating the entire life cycle of the application, it will just update the particular value you want to update, and that will be all. So it won't literally like reload everything from scratch again. Yeah, so we have some function inside stateful widgets. We have the set state, we have the init state, and some other ones like that that helps us with all these change with all the updating of values and all. So the architecture of a Flutter application or the Flutter framework generally consists of a combination of small and larger widgets interacting in conjunction to build the application. So all of its layers are integral to its design and functioning. As simple as building an application in Flutter, it is built with equally complex components as at its core. So this is just telling us that simple, because Flutter devs, that is those that actually create Flutter actually break the stuff down to the extent that it will be easy for Flutter developers to be able to to be able to work with. That is, you don't need to really crack your head around a lot of stuff before you can actually make it work. So they have actually broken every bit of this Flutter widgets down to smaller particles or so. So that's what this stuff is trying to tell us. So with all the smaller functionality that we have to keep in mind that all this stuff are still translated to the complex components that Flutter are also using, but we are not doing that ourselves. The Flutter engine is doing the transition and all in the background, so you don't need to really worry about that for now. Yeah. So that's that about the Flutter architecture. Yeah. So before moving forward, do you guys have any question on the introduction or the architecture application? Any question at all? Any question? Okay, okay. So let us move forward then. So now the next thing is getting started with Flutter. The very first thing we have actually done that. I believe, Rebecca, do you have Flutter installed on your system? Rebecca, are you here with us? Okay, what about Amit? Do you have Flutter installed on your system, that is fully installed on your system? Okay, that's nice. Okay, Rebecca, are you there? Okay, I guess she's not. Okay, so now let's just move on. So once you have the Flutter setup, the next thing is how to go about creating a Flutter project and everything. So that's what this getting started with mobile development with using Flutter is talking about. So we have discussed the introduction, why use Flutter framework. We have discussed this. So we have done the installation. If you still want to walk through the installation again, we have done that already. So set Spark Android Studio and set up your code editor. I believe we are using VS Code, right? Because I will also be using VS Code throughout this course. Yeah. So, but if you are familiar with Android Studio, you can use it. But I won't be using Android Studio at all. I'll be using VS Code. Yeah. So once you are done, I believe once we run our Flutter doctor, that is, let me just open up my terminal. Once you run Flutter doctor -v like this, your response, everything must be green. So this Flutter doctor, we have a lot of Flutter command. One of them is Flutter doctor. So this Flutter doctor is to check your Flutter installation if everything is actually done, everything is okay for your installation. So that's what the Flutter doctor does. That is, it just do like a quick checkup on your installation. You can see now that this stuff green simply means everything is okay. I can see it is checked. So if you also run your Flutter doctor and you see this green, that means your installation is fine. But if you have like a red um response, just know that you're yet to do some installation. You're yet to finish some installation. You can see that for my own no issue found. Do anybody have any issue with the installation? David, Michael, Ahmed, do you guys also have no issue found on your Flutter doctor response?
I don't have an issue there.
Okay, what about Michael?
No, I don't have an issue on my own.
Okay,
Everything is okay.
that's good then. So the next thing now is to create a Flutter project. So since um we are done with a Flutter setup, the next thing is now to create a Flutter project. When we are learning that, we actually didn't like create a DAT project like that. We just create a folder on ourselves and we just create a file and we call it probably main.dat and all those stuff. But for Flutter, you have to run some command, because Flutter we have to generate some folders for us before we can run a Flutter app. So to do that now, so for me, I will create a folder like I will just create a folder that will contain all my Flutter projects. So inside my desktop, you guys can also do the same. Inside my desktop now, I have this Dart tutorial. So I will also create another Flutter project. So you guys can follow along down your system. So on my desktop, you can have your own anywhere on your system, but I want to use desktop for my own. So I'll just name it Flutter tutorial. So what this folder does is that all my Flutter projects will be inside of this folder. That is, if I want to create an app now, it will be inside of the Flutter project. So I know that okay, all my projects are inside one file. I can just go and open one anytime I need it. Yeah. So inside my Flutter tutorial folder now, let me just open it up. So I'm inside the folder already. So now to create a Flutter project, we have a command which is Flutter create, then the name of that project. So I believe you guys have created a folder for your Flutter project. Have you? Michael, David, Ahmed, Rebecca, have you created? Okay.
Yeah, I've
All right.
created mine.
Okay, David, have you done that?
Sir, I lost connection from Flutter Create.
Okay. But have you created, do you have this folder ready already? This Flutter tutorial, do you have the folder?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so once you have this folder now, so inside this folder is where we want to have all our Flutter projects. So inside of it, you just click on this um box here, that is this text feed. Just click on it. So and type cmd. So what we are doing basically is that we want to open our command prompt to this particular directory. That is, open the command prompt to this particular folder, this Flutter tutorial folder, because it is inside of it that we want to create our Flutter project. So that's why we are doing this Flutter the cmd stuff. So just type cmd and press enter. So once you press enter, it will open up this command prompt tab for you, and you see that you have, for my own, I have users, my username, then inside my folder which is desktop, then the folder name which is Flutter tutorial. So inside this Flutter now, I will now run the Flutter code, the Flutter command, which is to create a new project. So have you guys done this? Are you guys on this command prompt now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So now the next thing is to run this Flutter command, which is Flutter space create, then space the name of your project. So now the name of your project, you have to keep in mind that I'm coming. Let me just open up a notepad. For the name of your project, the name of your project must start with lowercase. Lowercase, that is what is lowercase, capital letter, and the other one. So it must start with lowercase, that is small letter, and it cannot have space. You can't have, probably you want to build an app, probably you want to say my app like this. Your app name cannot have space. Is either you put underscore like this, you cannot have space. So this is how your name should actually be. It should just be a small letter. You can just say, for example, now for the project you want to create, you just call it hello world. So inside the hello world, I'll just put something like this. So that will be the name of the application for any Flutter project that you might want to create. Yeah, so that just a conventional name way of doing it, of creating a Flutter project. Yeah, because if you have space, this command is going to throw an error that an error occurred also inside your console. Yeah, so now let's create a hello world. Let me just say hello world like this. So you can see Flutter create hello world with the underscore. So once you are here, just press enter. So once you click enter, you see that Flutter will generate some folder for you. You can see creating project hello world. Who left the call? Okay. Michael, is your own doing the same? Ahmed.
Yeah, the same stage with you.
Okay. Okay. So now once you Ahmed, do you get this part before you drop your belly? Ahmed. Okay. Okay. So once you run the Flutter create command, it will do all this configuration and generate some folders for us. It is so I didn't really get you. You don't know how to create if um to create Flutter frame, but using command. Yeah, actually using command is still the I don't know, for me actually it's still like the simplest view of doing it because you just run this command sharp sharp and you launch the project on your VS Code. That's all. But there's still another way. If you are using Android Studio now, and just uh, create a new project on Android Studio, and also on VS Code, there's a way to create a project on VS Code without running this command. But I'm used to this command. Although we also show us how to create a new Flutter project on VS Code without running this command later on. So do you get that, Ahmed? Okay, so now once you are done running this stuff and the stuff is done generating this folder, if you check our folder again, you can see now that you have hello world folder here. You know, we are not the one that actually creates it, but with the help of Flutter create command is the one that generates this particular project for us. And if you open up the folder, you can see a lot of other folders that we have here from this Android, iOS, lib, Linux, macOS, text, web, Windows, and all these other files here. So you have them. So the Flutter create command is the one that generates all these files and folder for us. Yeah. So now we want to open up this project on our VS Code. So the next thing is to navigate to the directory. You know, on our command prompt, we are still on the Flutter tutorial directory. So now we want to change to the hello world. You can see now we have cd hello world here. So cd simply means change directory. So cd hello world, that is we want to move uh to the project that we just created. So we change the directory. You can see now that we are inside Flutter slash hello world. So inside the hello world now, to open up um this project on VS Code, just type command code and space period like this. Are you guys getting it?
Yes.
Okay, so just type code space period like this. So once you type that, just click on enter. So this project will be VS Code will open up this particular project. So let's just wait for a while for VS Code to come up. So now you can see that we have the project open up inside our VS Code. You can see all the folders here. You can see this is the folder name, which is hello world, and also all the folders that Flutter create generate for us. Yeah. So let me just brush through what all these folders are meant for. Do you guys have this guy coming up inside your VS Code now? Hmm? Do you guys have this aspect?
Yes, sir.
One is just opening now.
Okay, yes, it does. What about Ahmed? Okay, okay. So now, let me just explain what all these folders are doing before we actually run this project. So we just run this project and we call it a day for today. On Wednesday, we'll be having more in-depth explanation on stateful widgets, stateless widget, and also some of the commonly used or the most used widgets in Flutter that you will be using and probably throughout your mobile development career. Yeah. So let's just try and run in this application and we just explain what all this folder is doing here. So Michael, do you have this now?
Yeah, I have everything.
Okay. So now, the very first folder now, you don't this dot dat tools or dot and this dot id don't pay attention to. They are just my VS Code settings. So you might not have these two folders here, dot dat tool and dot dat id. You might not have it, or you can have it and you might not have it. So this does not mean anything. It's just my dat my VS Code settings rather that generate these two files. But the starting folder here is the Android. So if you have the Android, so this Android folder is the one responsible for all the Android settings that you might want to be doing, that you might want to do on your Android configuration. You know now, Android OS is different from that of iOS. So there's some configuration that are specific for Android. So all those configuration will be done inside of this Android folder. So inside of the Android folder, we have all these file and folders. We get to know that later on in the course, not now. So we have all these folders that you might want to change one thing or the other. Probably want to change the app icon, you want to rename your app, you want to put some permission, that is for your app to be able to access the user gallery, the camera, the internet, and so on. Every of those permission will be inside this Android folder. So that's just about Android folder. So you'll be working on this Android folder probably 1% for your entire on your entire project. Probably you are just building a project. So you won't really work on this Android folder like that. So the next one here is we have this iOS. So iOS folder also is like all the configuration for iOS development. So you want to change the app icon, the app name, and so on and so forth. That's what this iOS is for. So now moving on, this sleep folder is where you'll be doing 99% of your work. That is all the code that you'll be writing will be inside of this sleep folder. So the lib folder now, we have this main.dat code there by default. You can see when I open up the main.dat code, we have this code written up already. We call it boiler plate code. That is, it is auto generated once you create a Flutter code. If you run this project now, we will see we see the output, but let's just move on before doing that. So this lib folder is one that contains 99% of your code. That is, this is where you'll be doing all the work, majorly all the work for your entire for the entire lifetime of your application. Yeah. So we have the Linux. So Linux also is the configuration for Linux development. That's for desktop. We have the macOS also for configuration and all the stuff for macOS. We have the text. So now our text folder is in Flutter. Now we have different type of tests. We have unit test, we have widget test, and we have integrated test. So all these tests are just a way of checking or verifying if the function you wrote is actually doing what you asked it to do. That is, probably you wrote a function 2 plus 2. So you can create a text around it to actually see if the 2 plus 2 is actually returning the exact response you need. That is, the response you are getting is what you are actually expecting. So that's what this text is for. So text actually is like an advanced topic, but once you start your mobile development career, you get to know more about it. Yeah. So you have the text, you have the web for web development, you have this web folder. For Windows, we have this also, and also all this one you don't need to pay attention to. The next two one, okay, welcome back, Michael. Can you hear me?
Can hear you now. I lost connection.
Oh, okay. So, okay, so let me move on. So now, all these folders are just like the platform configuration stuff. Yeah. So, moving on now, all this you can just you don't need to really pay attention to all this one. So the next one is this spec. So this spec is like your this file is responsible for the third party package that you'll be installing on your project. That is your whole project settings. You can see now the first thing is we have the project name and description here. After that, you have the version of your app. You know, if you want to upload your app now to Play Store, you have to use some app we have or apps normally on Play Store, we have different version. If I upload an app now, the next update that I want to push, I have to change the version from 1.0.0 to another version and so on. So that's what this version is responsible for. So for your subsequent updates, you have to upgrade, you have to change this version. Yeah, so that's what this version is for. For the environment, so this environment simply states the current SDK of Flutter that you are on. So for the Flutter SDK that this project is on is 2.17.6 or 3.0.0. So that's the current SDK version. So we have the dependency here. So this dependency by default, this is dependency. So this dependency is just like external package because you have some package in Flutter that is some external code that some developers actually written to ease the development of our project. So you don't need to stress yourself of coding some stuff again. There's some package that can actually do those stuff for you. Yeah. So this is where we install those package. We know more about package installation later on this bootcamp. So we have this use material design. This is if you want to render image inside your application. If you want to render image, we have something called asset. So you must specify the asset of this your project inside this postspec.yaml file. So this asset is the one responsible for all the assets of your project ranging from image, icons, font, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that's assets. You can see now they already have like a structure for it. So once you want to implement image, you just comment out to this guy and we will change the directory. We know more about that later on. And we also have for font, can see this is for font example. Yeah, so this is for font example and that's it. So you actually understand every of these guys more once you start developing. And also, after this call, you actually give us an assignment, not really an assignment, but like a research assignment for us to go and study. So for our next class, it will be easy for us to easily grab what the next instructor will be talking about. So we won't be going back and forth and all those stuff. Yeah. So that's what this prospect.yaml file is responsible for, just like your whole project configuration. Yeah. So that's it. So now inside the lib folder, I said earlier that this lib folder contains the 99% of your work. That is every of your coding, design, implementation logic, and all those stuff will be done inside of this lib folder. So inside of the lib folder now we have this main.dat here. So if you check the main.dat file, we have this our main function. As I explained earlier, the run app, the my app. So this code now is auto-generated once you run Flutter create. So you have all this code here. So let me just delete. I believe you guys also have the same code on your project, right?
Yeah, we have the same thing.
Okay. Hope you guys are not having issue with the Flutter create stuff. Any issue at all? I'm just trying to remove the comment so we can see the code, all the code. So I've actually explained this code earlier. So I'm going to go through the explanation, the full explanation again, but I'll just try and mention one particular one that was not mentioned during the last code snippet. Yeah. So now if you notice now, this is the main function. We have the run app and we return this my app. So inside the my app, this is the class we they extend stateless widget, and we have the material app inside of it, the title, the theme, and the home. So inside the home now we have this my home page. But if you notice, this my home page now extends stateful widgets, not stateless widget. So as I said, Michael, do you still remember what's the difference between stateful and stateless widget? Michael?
Yeah, I can hear you. Uh,
Yeah,
for the stateful, we can be a dynamic,
okay.
while the stateless is static.
Okay, that's correct. Yeah, so that's correct. Yeah, so now for this screen now, we are not doing anything dynamic. That's why it extends stateless widget. But for this particular screen now, there's something dynamic that is done here. That's why um we have stateful widgets here. So now on this screen, let's just try and run this particular project so we can see the output. Yeah, so now on your VS Code, you can see on this your blue area, your own might not be color blue though, but on this down part now you see your device. So if you just click on this guy where my mouse is, you guys can see my mouse, right? So just click on this guy. So this guy will open up your connected device. So do you guys have this on your connected device? You can see a list of. Hello, hello, can you guys still hear me?
I can hear you. I have my own connected device.
Okay, so if you actually plug your phone to the system, you have with this, but I just want to run this particular project on Windows. So I just select the Windows desktop. That is, I want to run the app on desktop mode. So I just select desktop, then I will run the application. So now just select any device you want to run it on. We have the Windows, you have your browser, this Chrome and Edge. So I just select Windows for my own. So I will just run the app on Windows. Yeah, so now after selecting the device, so now to run the project, just come to this upper part now. This is your toolbar. Just click on this run. You have this run and you have start debugging. The shortcut for it is F5. So you can just press F5 on your keyboard and it will start running. So you can just click on this start debugging also. So let me start debugging. So once you start debugging, you can see that the whole color has changed from blue to, I guess this is orange or amber. Yeah, so the stuff is running. I can see launching application. You can see my state. So you guys also should try and do the same, and let's wait while the app launches. Rebecca, are you still with us? Okay, guys, is your project running now? And I mean, do you have the same loading state as mine?
Yeah, still building window application.
Okay, what about Ahmed? Okay, okay, cool. David,
Yes, sir. Mine is cool, sir.
what is it?
Mine is okay.
Okay, you're already running the project.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, cool. So this first launch might take a while, so let's just wait for it to finish building.
Okay, it has opened.
Okay, that open. That's nice. Yeah, mine is still loading. Okay. Okay, now, so if Ahmed, do you have this as your own app also on time? Yeah. Ahmed, do you have this application running on your system now? Ahmed, okay. Oh, oh, okay. Okay, no problem. But Michael, you have this screen, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I have it.
Okay, now, so
Same with you.
this is the output of this particular code. So let me just try and minimize this stuff so you can see the full output. So let me minimize it. Okay, okay. Okay, now so I just want to explain some of the code now. So now on this screen now, on this class that we have this stateful widget extended. So now you can see now on this screen and we have this text which says you have pushed the button this many times, which is 0. So if you click on this button here, which is increment, you can see that the value changes to 1. That means this particular screen is dynamic. That is, something is changing here. With stateless widgets, you can't do something like this. But with the help of stateful widgets, that's why we can change the current state of this app that make this particular value to rebuild to be updated. Yeah, so if you click on this guy, you can see that the values are changing and so on. So how does this happen? The first thing is, if we check inside our app banner, this is our app banner. If I change the content inside this app banner to something else, this our app. If I just put let me just put plus, or let me just wrap it inside string. I just put it inside string now. You will see that the content inside our app has changed to this widget.title. Yeah, I want to change the name to something else. This is my this is this is an app bar like this. Can see once you so now before moving forward, let me just try and explain this panel for you where you see all these controls. So now for this panel, this is like the control panel of your Flutter project. So once you run the Flutter project, you see this panel or this control panel comes up. So the very first thing is the pause icon. So this one is to pause the entire running of this application. So if I pause this guy, if I click on pause, you can see now that the project has paused. You can't interact with anything on this guy. If I want to click on this button, it won't be clickable because I've paused the entire life cycle of this application. So nothing works anymore. So I have to restart it again for it to work. So now after pausing, you can see that these three icons are activated. This is step over, step into, although I have not used these guys before. I don't really know what it does, but they're not that I don't want to say useful, but you won't really need them as of right now. So now once I start the program again, let me just click on this guy. You can see now that this guy is activated. If I click on the plus again, everything is working fine. So now after the plus, we have this flash icon. So this flash icon now is called auto reload. So auto reload is one of the advantages we have in Flutter. So it helps us with reloading our app whenever you make a changes. So for example now, I change this app banner to somewhere like this. If I want to show the changes inside of this app, I will just click on this auto reload. So once I click on it, you can see now this is somewhere. Let me just change this is somewhere. So if you can see that I've made changes to my code now. If I want the changes to reflect um on this my app, I just click on Alt Reload. So Alt Reload now we reload the application and also update all the changes I've done inside the app. You can see now that I have the new text. But keep in mind, my own VS Code is already set to autosave. So assuming you are clicking on the auto reload and it's not changing stuff, make sure that the file is saved already. For me, I put it on autosave. That is, anytime I make a change to the folder or to the file, the VS Code is auto-saving itself. So I don't need to be clicking on Control S every time and every now and then. Yeah, so now so that's it. So that's for auto reload. Auto reload is to quickly show up any changes inside of that file. So after that we have auto restart. So auto restart now is to restart the whole application from scratch again. For this auto reload now, let me try and change this guy also to this is OUI. So please watch. So this is OUI. If I auto reload now, the only content changing is this guy, is this our app. Our 35 is not changing from any place. It's still the same stuff. So if I click on this guy now, you can see now this is OUI Bootcamp. But with this auto restart, it's just like we are starting the app from scratch again. So if I click on this auto restart now, you can see performance restart, and once the app restarts, you can see now that the 35 it has changed back to 0. That is the initial value of this our counter function. It has changed back to 0. So that's what restart does. It restarts the application from start again. So that's auto restart. And we have stop. Stop is to sorry, I've actually clicked on the stop. So stop is to terminate the running of the application. Yeah, so that's stop. And we have this dev to widget inspector. So this one is just to check the widget you are using inside of that your project. Do we all understand this controller now, or do you have any question on it? Question, or are we good to go?
We are good to go, sir.
What about Mike, Ahmed, Rebecca?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Okay, so let me just wait for this app to rerun. Mistakenly. Okay, okay, Ahmed. Okay, so now inside of this, let me just continue explaining this code so we can quickly call it a day. Yeah. So now inside this class now, where there extend stateful widgets now, inside the stateful widget, that's where we can perform a dynamic stuff. We clicking on that increment button that is incrementing the value from 0 to wherever time we press that button, probably 100 times. That is incrementing the value to the amount of time we press the button. That's where this stateful widget comes in. Yeah. So how the increment stuff works really is the very first thing they did is they create a value that holds the initial value of our counter. So the initial value of this counter now is 0. In variable now, variable is like a storage that holds value for you. So we have this counter value and it holds 0. So you can see that once the app launch, you have 0 by default. If I change this 0 now to, let's say, okay, my app is launching. So I want to change the value. I'm coming, let me quickly minimize this, reduce the size. Okay. Okay, so now if I change the initial value of this guy to something else, like let me just say 10 now. If I have to auto restart this guy because the initial value of it is 10 already. So for me changing this guy, I have to auto restart to review. You can see now that I have 10 here. That's the initial value. So this variable simply holds the initial value. So if I press this guy now, it will be adding 1 to this value. It will start from 11, 12, 13, and so on, like that. Yeah. So now inside this counter now, it holds the initial value. Then we have this function here, which is increment counter. If you want to create function in Flutter, you can just come here and call void this function also. You can just have some function like this. So it's still the same way that they have it here. So we have this function named increment counter. So that's just the name he gave it. Inside the increment counter now, they have this particular stateful widget function, which is set state. So set state now, the work of set state is to update any variable that you want to set a new value for. Yeah. So this set state now will rebuild our widget tree. That is, it will rebuild this widget and look for any changes that we might have made and update that particular stuff on the screen. Yeah. So now inside the set state now is also a function. So inside our set state function, we increment the counter value. You can see we call the counter value, which is counter, and put this plus plus. This plus plus simply means increment. We have minus minus also. Minus minus simply means decrease. Y plus plus is to increase. Yeah. So now we just say add 1 to the current value of this counter, which is by default is 10. So counter plus, but that means add 1 to it. Once the user click on that button, add 1 to it. Once the user click on it again, add, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's what this set state and also the plus plus is doing. So once you have this guy, once user click on this function, it will increment this particular value. Yeah. So let me delete this. So now inside our scaffold now we have the alba and we have the body. As I said earlier, alba is the one responsible for this um top bar here. Yeah, so that's for alba. Then we have the body. So this is our body. So the body is where we have the center. I mentioned earlier that we have single widgets and we have multiple widgets. An example of single widget is center, and an example of multiple widgets is column. Yeah, so column now takes can take in multiple widgets. For our center now, we only have this child that you can just pass one widget inside, and that's all. But for column, you can have a list of widgets. You can see inside the column we have children's. Children simply means one or more than one child. So you have children, and it contains a list of widgets. You can see the list here, so you can have as many widgets as you want inside of the column. Yeah, so that's why we have these two text here. So we have the two text like this. Yeah, so we have this text which says you have pushed the button this many times, and also the text that actually show up. You can see now that this text now is referencing the variable that we have up here. So this variable, we are just referencing the variable, that is, we are getting the value from it. So that's what this guy does. So the widget responsible for this guy now, we call it floating action button in Flutter. So this is it. So this is a separate one. We have our banner, we have body, and we have floating action button. So this floating action button is placed at this um bottom. Is it right or left? Although you can change the position. If you want to change it to center, you want to change it to left or right, you want to change it to top, left or right or center, you can change it anyhow you want. But by default, it is placed at this particular angle. Yeah, so inside of it now, you can see we have the unpressed um we have the unpressed uh, um unpressed function inside of it. So inside the unpressed, we're returning this increment function. That is this increment function that we have up here. We return is for the unpressed property. So the unpressed property, then we return this increment counter, that is this function that was created up here. So inside the function, so once the user click on it, once the user click on this guy, it's performing the function that we have inside of this guy. Yeah, so that's how this simple screen actually works. So once you click on it, it loads up and increment the value, and so on and so forth. So for example, now I can have another text here. Let me just duplicate this. Let me just copy and duplicate this one and do this. So I will just change the value now. And this is my first text. Let me just copy it. This is second. This is second. Second, this third. Yeah. Okay, so now if I reload reload my app now, you can see the changes. You can see this is my first text, second and third text. That is the text widget, is the one that we use to render text on our screen. Yeah, so that's will be it for today. I hope you guys grab something today. Do you? Michael, David, Ahmed,
Yes, sir.
Rebecca. Yeah. Any question at all? Do you guys have any question? Any question? Are you guys still with me? Let me check the call. Okay, okay,
Yeah, we are still waiting.
okay. So now the next thing now is this will be the end of the quarter, but the next thing now is for you to actually practice all this stuff on your own. Throughout even if you are receiving a lecture, you can the lecturer can actually teach you like literally everything. You have to do some research on your own. When you are doing your own personal research, that's when you actually get some of the stuff the lecturer is trying to say that you might not understand at the moment. So after doing your own research, you actually understand it more and probably better also. So now the next thing now for you guys is to go online, search on how to get started with Flutter. So with some of the articles that you have there online, you see a lot of other explanation, and also try out some of the widgets. You have these text widgets now. We have container. Let me just show you container. So This container, as the name implies, it holds like it's just like a container. So it has height, it has width. Let me just give the height 200 like this. Let me just make it a perfect square, and the width also 200. And let me give it a color so you can see it, because by default the color will be white. So let me just give it color green. And okay, so it is container. Let me reload. So you can see our container here. So just try out every of this stuff on your own before the next class, so it will be actually easy for you guys to grab along the way. So that's will be it. Since you guys said there's no question, that means our next class will be on Wednesday. And I hope you guys are actually understanding all this stuff I'm talking about. Okay, let's see where's on the call. Rebecca. Okay, I guess Rebecca is not actually with us. Okay, yeah. So that will be all for this section. So for our